Welcome back to the pit wall, and after sprint qualifying, the sprint race and a fascinating build up here in Shanghai, it's time for our final predictions for the Chinese Grand Prix. There are some big storylines heading into tomorrow's race. Mercedes still look like the team to beat, but for the first time this season, we've seen a few cracks beginning to appear. Ferrari looks significantly closer than they did just 1 week ago in Australia. Red Bull are in serious trouble, and further down the grid, there are some teams already facing reliability headaches just 2 rounds into the season. So let's break it all down. Mercedes, still the favourites, but not perfect. Mercedes still have to be considered the favourites heading into tomorrow. Kimi Antonelli took pole position, and George Russell lines up right alongside him in P2, giving the Silver Arrows another front row lockout. But the weekend hasn't been entirely smooth. During qualifying, George Russell suddenly developed gearbox issues, forcing the team to bring the car straight into the pits. The engineers worked incredibly quickly to diagnose the issue and send Russell back out. And despite the disruption, he still managed to put in a lap good enough for second on the grid. But it does raise an interesting question. If something like that were to happen during the race, it could completely derail Mercedes' strategy and potentially drop Russell right down the order. And then there's Kimi Antonelli. The young Italian has been phenomenal so far this season, but the sprint race exposed some weaknesses. He made a poor start, dropping all the way down to 10th place, and while trying to recover positions quickly, he collided with Isack Hadjar, which earned him a 10-second time penalty. It was a first real sign of pressure affecting the young driver this year, so while Mercedes still look incredibly fast, they're not quite as bulletproof as they first appeared in Australia. Ferrari, meanwhile, look much more competitive here in China. In Australia, they were clearly a step behind Mercedes in qualifying pace, but this weekend the gap looks far smaller. Both Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton were right in the fight during qualifying, and they've looked quick across the entire weekend. Just like Australia, Ferrari also started the race strongly in the sprint. At several points, the lead was yo-yoing between Russell and the Ferrari drivers, showing that over the early stages, Ferrari can absolutely challenge Mercedes, but once again, the same pattern emerged. As the race progressed, George Russell was eventually able to pull away, putting a bit of distance between himself and both the Ferraris. So the big question heading into tomorrow is whether Ferrari have found the consistency they need to actually challenge Mercedes over a full Grand Prix distance. Red Bull are surprisingly off the pace. The real shock this weekend has been Red Bull. They look genuinely poor, like genuinely poor. Max Verstappen's car looked extremely difficult to control during qualifying, with the rear stepping out repeatedly through the high-speed corners, and things didn't improve in the sprint race. Young driver Isack Hadjar struggled after his collision with Antonelli, and overall, the team just doesn't seem to have the pace that we've come to expect from them. Max himself has been very vocal about the situation. He said this weekend that everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, and that's not exactly the kind of message you want to hear coming from your star driver this early in the season. Right now, Red Bull look like they're fighting their own car rather than racing it. McLaren are another team that seem to be slowly finding their way back. Both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri managed to put together some extremely strong sectors in qualifying, even setting purple sectors at times, but there are still 2 major weaknesses holding them back. The first is battery deployment, and the second is straight line speed. At several points this weekend, the McLarens have looked quick through the corners, but they simply lose too much time down the straights to stay competitive. If they can solve those issues later in the season, McLaren could become a real threat again. But for now, they're still playing catch up. Further back in the grid, things are getting interesting. The Racing Bulls actually look surprisingly competitive this weekend, almost matching their partner team Red Bull, which is both encouraging for them and slightly embarrassing for the main Red Bull squad. Meanwhile, teams like Williams, Aston Martin and Cadillac are really struggling. Cadillac in particular are having a nightmare start to the season. They suffered yet more reliability problems in the sprint race, and they're also massively off the pace. Sergio Perez qualified almost 5 seconds slower than pole sitter Antonelli. That's a huge gap. And then there's the situation at Aston Martin. Their relationship with engine supplier Honda already looks strained. This comes after Adrian Newey publicly criticised the power unit last week, which has clearly caused some tension behind the scenes. It's raised a serious question. Would Aston Martin have been better off developing their own power unit? Having full control over the engine integration could have avoided some of the friction that we're now seeing between the chassis and power unit development. Right now, it doesn't look a happy partnership. So, heading into tomorrow's Chinese Grand Prix, who wins? This prediction might come back to bite me, but I'm going all in. I'm predicting Lewis Hamilton to take his first Grand Prix victory for Ferrari. It's been a long time since we've seen the 7-time world champion look genuinely happy on the grid, but this weekend he looks comfortable, confident, and it feels like he's finally got a car that he can really connect with and extract something special from. Now, I'm not saying he's going to go on to win his 8th world championship this year, but I would absolutely bet on him taking at least a couple of race wins this season, even if Ferrari's overall package isn't quite as strong as Mercedes right now. And tomorrow could be the first. Let me know your final predictions in the comments. Will Mercedes dominate again? Can Ferrari finally convert that pace into a victory? Or could we see a surprise winner here in Shanghai? And make sure you join us after the race tomorrow, where we'll break down the Chinese Grand Prix with our 10 things we learned analysis. Thanks for watching the Pit Wall. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment who you think will come out victorious tomorrow.